All right. Good morning. So we'll start with hi. So we'll start with mandala offering and then refuge and bodhicitta. Sashia Pokia Jo Shimeto Tamri Ramlingshi Nidegambati Sangeshido Miteo Ginroku Namda Shinla Chupa Shoidang Guru Ratna Mandala Kaniyatayami
Sangi Chedang Tsojin Chonum La Changche Bardu Dang Gyabsun Dagi Chuji Gibanza Dag Drolam Benji Sangi Drupara Sho Sangi Chedang Tsojin Chonum La Changche Bardu Dang Gyabsun Dagi Chuji Gibanza Dagi Drolam Benji Sangi Drupara Sho Sanji Chodam Sojin Chonum La Chancho Bardo Dame Gyabsun Dagi Chushi Gibanza Da Drola Benje Sanji Drupara Sho Kanki Tuzini Zone Dawa Tamche Pambi Cheret Kodam Chela Chantse Lo Good morning, everyone. Thanks, cause something in my shoes in that's right. Cause something.
So we've been looking at a text that is called Mind Training Like the Rays of the Sun. Currently, we're looking at a meditation that is called Donglin, or Giving and Taking in English. And we're going to pick up on the point that we left off in the previous session. I think that we're left off in the section that explains how to give your body to those who harm you.
Nibalam Shuki Kanzalam Bursutre. Picture
No, Hasan. Kiaba de Novaje Rigla Tombetsu di Drotsare.
Tawanda Chicks. Drotsara, the Nibalam Shuki Kanzalam Bursutre.
So actually, we're going to begin with a point after that, which is how to give your body to those who have entered the path. Let's look at the text. There it is. Okay, just a second. All right, this is it. That's all.
On last the did that Tanganzo that Nibalam Shuki Kanzalam Burgore Sondi. And then Lam Shuki, Lamla Shuki Kanza. Sena Kandisla Wore said Dita Chik Shuki Kegdosra. Lamla Shuk the Mashuk said.
So in dispensing a body to others, here this section explains how we offer to those who are engaged in the spiritual path. So first question is, who is such a person who has entered the path? What is the difference between entering and not entering the path?
Lamla ya Shuk Shibi Lam the Kares. lam the carriers laundi namji yonda la ya lam labasum yonda chin shukores ana Tsultrim ki laba tengin ki laba shereb ki laba pegi tachik yoba tsamki ane lam la shubares na tian shagmandos ra ane zu labasum de redena labasum de la ya chik chokda masona ane kowa la ngiban jongwi nginjong sambe masim bayna nginjong samba tachik kowa la ngiban jongdu same thing ni tachik kowa la ngiban jongdu ki samba chuma mayimba sech ngores ta dindri chiki samba chi mena kenan gyula ya labasum kanda chiki yobayna ya ane lam la shaktu gumandos til lam machana an kenan lam la shubi kansa di chag gumandos kenan lam la shu da ma shuti kenan gyula ya labasum yoba shisha labasum tenya chok pigi ane chik nginjong samba ane chuma mayimba chik chok la yobayna ta lam la shukba seti wa dindri jila tsigo dos.
So this section in the text explains how to offer a body to those who are engaged in the spiritual path or those who have entered into the path. So first off, you might wonder, what is the type of path that we're speaking of at this point in time? Well, it is commonly accepted or commonly renowned that the path is the path of the three trainings, which means training in ethical discipline, training in concentration, and training in wisdom. But then still, when we think of entering the path in this particular context, it's not enough, or it's not just the path of the three trainings in ethical discipline, concentration, and wisdom. Also, to enter the path, we need a certain state of mind that accompanies those three trainings. And that particular state of mind that accompanies the three trainings is the determination to live cyclic existence and attain the state of liberation. That state of mind is called renunciation, the determination to live cyclic existence. So the type of determination that we need to generate is an uncontrived determination to live cyclic existence, without this uncontrived determination to emerge from cyclic existence, we will not be a person that has entered the path, which means that simply training in ethical discipline, in concentration, and in wisdom is not enough to qualify as someone that has entered the path. On top of that, if someone has developed an uncontrived determination to live cyclic existence, that person is regarded as someone that has entered a path. They have a path in the continuum, so that in their continuum, they have this combination of the three trainings and the uncontrived determination to live cyclic existence, so they've entered the path.
Reda ngazuta chigi lobchong kana kansa machina da dizo lola chariya khagburwasra da benan kowa la ngeban jong du ki sambas laundi anin kowa la ngeban jong yala ya kowa di ngwesen ko dwas ra kowa di nganzu chi pi lu loncho tsam ge ani chi korbi ge ani kodyon di yonsu zogyo marwas ra dinza kowa singe di kareres laundi pi momba mari bi shichi bi chagdang wangi lesa legi wangi ta chik yani yandu ta pi ani kewalen la soba ani chagdang wangi ani pi chik susu longjo dribde la soba o digi inju digi kowares ro digi chede bayna kaddu ina thamandi bajida kaddu ina nyogda jeda o dindi jingo as dila ya digi I ani ba ani sunchin ro and dili lo lobby sambajilaya ani koalangi wanchongwas tindi ti chemo mai basla dipe ani nin sen tu kanda jibayna ya samlabe ani ngangi shardeyach yobayna ani kansa de nginjong samba kebares o dindi shugores ra.
So when we speak about having entered the path in terms of having to have in our mind stream, in our continuum, the uncontrived determination to live cyclic existence, we need to, this point, to have already developed certain understanding of what it means to be completely determined to live cyclic existence. So we need to have some study as a, you can say, as a foundation in order to understand what it means. Because first of all, when we say that it is the uncontrived determination to live samsara, we need to then develop an understanding of what samsara is, not limited just to just the current state of our body or our possessions and so forth. It's not limited just to that. It is understanding that that samsara is first of all based on ignorance, under the power of which we perform actions that cause us to repeatedly, again and again, take rebirth in samsara, and then under the power of our afflictive states of mind, we utilize different things so that whatever we experience, there's always something that is not quite right. There are always problems and difficulties that we experience when we are being repeatedly born in that state, being controlled by afflictive states of mind. So then when you understand that this state is never quite right, that there are always problems, then this thought of living that state, emerging from that state, arises until you become determined to live cyclic existence. So that's first of all the determination to live cyclic existence, renunciation. But on top of that, we say that in order to in order to have entered the path, it needs to be an uncontrived determination to live cyclic existence. So the uncontrived bit means that it needs to be naturally present day and night, so that this thought of wanting to definitely emerge from cyclic existence needs to be there present naturally in whatever you do during the day and during the night.
Tere danganzogi namgyugi chi susu longcho da lu da longcho tsam pigi koala yang ngunzen chini ani tit torgori, tit pangori, tit mugoyarese, tenri sunguyo samares. Yaja gyatamba pigi longcho nganzula ye longcho ngebar to gogoras da longcho gogorins longcho drubitan delaya longcho di tseo mebi toni chambi toni champagne sambe toni longcho drubitan yaja gyatamba yosares ti injimi ti druni champagne chiage chagyan yan rugdos di ta yaja gyatamba geware mado di deva chagmaros ta ani ramdeng ko ne lanse namdu chaksam gi wanki ra tsawa mari ba shicheje ani chakdang gi wanki ran gel shempam tindiji ko long gi wanki ta chawa karsa matawa checheni ta penjo saya longjo druvia lulaya tusu ti chadi dugderes korwares di thamandi gyuchagres is a telaya and ngeban jongores ro ti chena digbares di sozole pengmares shala pengmares o di sunguyores ro ta kanji dindi gi karsorta lo surbu nebi namjo dembi tone ani chawa machibaji cholongang roya di dunga tsawres tele yi sumbayna ani khole koala ngeban jong nginjong se di chago sares ra.
So then when we think of developing renunciation, the determination to live cyclic existence, some might think that it means that we do not need our body and resources or our body and enjoyments, that we need to abandon them, to relinquish them, to give up on them, to leave them behind and so forth. But this is not the right meaning of the determination to live cyclic existence, because when we think of, for example, our body and resources, we do need resources. But then the way that we deal with that is without an harmful intent. without harmfulness, with a sense of concern for others, with a wish to be of benefit to others. So then when we deal with our resources, with then wishing to benefit others, our resources become branches of helping others, being of benefit to others, and as such, our involvement with them is not regarded as negative. Whereas if our attitude is a self-centered attitude, if on the basis of ignorance, we give rise to attachment and so forth, if in our attitude we seek our own victory and the defeat of others, then this is indeed a negative a negative behavior. And we, if we become dishonest and then we accumulate money and possessions, we seek our own victory, the defeat of others, and so forth, it means that our behavior is not right. And on that basis, we accumulate negative actions. So we recognize that, and we then develop the determination to emerge from that state, to leave that state. We think that this is a negative state and this is not helpful. It's not helpful to myself. It's not helpful to others. This is the determination to live cyclic existence that we develop. So it means that the state is based on having an impartial attitude, right? So our mind becomes impartial, honest, with a sense of concern for others. And through that, we develop the determination to live cyclic existence.
The China and Kang Rabati and Demba was Chandera. And Chuzu Legatavati and Chuzu Dindroya Konkuya Ched, Gogors of the Tam, Mabis of the Chavdevana, the Matama Chasons, like Pension Roach. Tinza and Lega Karchiva by Naya, larger land, Lega Karchiva, Tico Sentence, Samanamda Chesavana, Tig Lacha di. Chandingi series, Seva maybe sesing it, luxurious, Delia Nevachi Yomaros, Tela Nevan Jongoyagi, Gunzen Shushu Yomares, Diana the Chickpolea, the Lacha Chickpolea Namni, Chedevania, Duzotola Sorachik. Yeah, Chichagorta didn't go near to Logajros, or didn't dig so much down to Vana, and Susu car draw cowl denaya, car chevainaya. Ani Pakpebu Kibuch Yongsares. The mena, then Kaduina Chik Tamandi Wadrich, Tangan Samal Yungudu Asra.
So, for example, we can accumulate resources, we can create enjoyments for ourselves with a sense of honesty and truthfulness. So, for example, we take up a daily job, we get an hourly rate, and in taking up this job, hour by hour, our attitude towards the job is honest, we have a genuine approach to our work, so that whatever we get at the end of the day, whatever payment we get at the end of the day, it is a resource that we have obtained through honesty and truthfulness. Whereas if we take up a certain job, we are being paid an hourly rate, and in the time that passes, we use techniques in kind of deceiving or lying, avoiding work and so forth, which means that we're being dishonest, not truthful, then this resource is obtained in a way that is negative. So then when we think of getting a wage that we get through honesty and truthfulness, and also a wage in which we have obtained, and also thinking of being of benefit to others, is a resource that is involved with the benefit of others. Whereas if we think of only of ourselves, whatever we do is in light of seeking only our own happiness and well-being, it is a waste of time. This is a different story, different reality. So then, if you take that approach in which you develop honesty and truthfulness and also think of the benefit of others, whatever you do, your mind will become more relaxed, more at ease. Otherwise, if our approach is different, different to thinking of the benefit of others, honesty and truthfulness, if our approach is different to that, we'll end up experiencing problems or situations in which things will not work for us in the way that we want them to.
Terda kanji dungar sedi korwa sedi ra tamandi bam tachi matang we chawadi korwa so ro reshas ro tinzang anzu tandin chegoya pena anzu chuzu ni le ya lega chega bana chuzu ni gi lachad matena ngan sosu tolang ra ta debal phagmaras tinangshin gi chuzu ni gi lachad leni chuzu ni le lega machibana lachad tengin tie debal phagmarda di chigbaras ro dinza changbu changja chejabana samba namda chejabana yaja yata bateni ta yagu chagores ra ta yagu chagores.
Which means that when we think of sufferings, or at least samsaric sufferings, we think about samsara as a state in which things do not work out for us quite right. So then the attitude that we develop is an attitude of honesty and truthfulness. So for example, we have to take up a job. The job will last for a couple of hours. If at the end of the 2 hours we are not being paid, it is likely that we're going to get upset or angry. Also, similarly, if we are being paid for 2 hours and yet we do not do the work, the thing that we should be doing, the employer would get angry. So then in general, when we think of this situation in which we need to do something, we're being rewarded for that in a particular way, Geshe reckons that if we take this approach of honesty and truthfulness, then in general, things will work well for us.
Kongoyo netsu kandrajila yabuchina yabuyungor dujajina dujayungor sagdi ratreyak chedo denshi ngodre chesha gyoji yaji yadamares. Inza denshi ngodre ne dugden soba, korwa la soba digi ngon chondi ani chanden chego badin tongores. Chanden chen chanden ga lamlaya chanden laya njondi da ani lamlaya shugdo goras ra. Chanden la majeba lamla shugsu chik sawani ni mdoas. Tinzata kanji chandin chen drongen solaya ani lu kandajin borko res. Matrang wa marong wa chedengen solaya lu kand ani chi tonlen kandajin gomko res. O dinji namja deta shib sagbo shojin songo doas ro dinam.
And this presentation in turn is based on the 4 truths. Right, so recognizing the 4 truths. As we're recognizing the 4 truths, we develop an honest and truthful approach, which is based on reality, which also informs the way that we behave. In being able to assess our behavior and the outcome that we get from our behavior, positive outcome or negative outcome. Beginning with recognizing the first truth, which is true suffering. So recognizing the reality of true suffering is something that informs our approach. We develop an honest and truthful approach, which then also at some point becomes an aid for entering the path. So in this point in time in the text, as we're looking at the section that explains how to dispense a body, to give a body as offering to those who are engaged in the spiritual path, then this, without developing that sense of honesty and truthfulness that is based upon an understanding of the 4 truths, will not be able to engage in the spiritual path or to enter the path. So therefore, here we are learning how to, this is my time now. So we are learning how to dispense our body, how to dispense our body to those who are engaged in the spiritual path with honesty and truthfulness. Back to you.
Thank you. Terda da lamshu kanza la ya xiawondi da lamla shu kanza de la ya ani da kanza pi da lo ramdi ni so da yungo ras theba member da ani theba chembos kanza ni yungo res da theba member said da namgi yongda la ya ani theba membi kanza ge thyan ro de rang chik pu ranchik bi chedu samtan degen roch ya zigores yine ya da di retan namgi di zigores ro da zigores.
So as this section explains the offering to those who are engaged in the spiritual path, in general, here we're looking at two types of people that engage in the spiritual path. There are those that engage in the Hinayanist and Mahayanist. Those are the two types of persons. Now, generally speaking, when we then speak of the difference between Hinayanist and Mahayanist, Hinayanists are normally those who are, they are described normally as those who are thinking of their own welfare alone.
Reda jadan samchen tham maybe ani ten masam badinda zawni ne yins samares ra teba maybe kansa ani chi pabal soba dachombal soba tegi taji pi tawe kansa ki dame thamo chugi dame thamo kanji tombani ten tenjung ne di the yons zogores shingoras da ra tenjong xiongdi ani kaso tenjong xiongdi shen la ya sevi zeba di jaja jadam ngesamna pe ngangi le chi yungu yasar samgdos tinza shen gi ten samgu yorda ya tegba chimbi kanza nanshingi shengi ten sama ngararang duptua chigi sambi lotup di yosamaris tim meba inza ani tegba members ro chanju samba solaya kal tuna tu karim chona chon ani shengi chedu ngararang duptua chigi sambi lotup di yorwas tinza di chani ani tegba chembos ani shemba solaya chig nyentu da range ge ani chig kansa solaya shenla zevi zewa yonaya shendun di kurt lentu mebanza members or dindi isar samgudos tangi dingara samsu is.
Now, generally speaking, when scriptures describe the difference between those two types of practitioners, Hinayanis and Mahayanis, the general description says that Hinayanis are those who are focused on their own welfare alone. But still, Geshe says that when he thinks about it, he understands in a way that is slightly different, in the sense that, first of all, there are countless sentient beings, countless living beings. And it is not the case at all that Hinayanis are not concerned with the happiness or welfare of others. Geshe believes that this is not the case at all. In that, particularly when we think of some types of Hinayana practitioners, those which are called Aryas, which means those that have attained an Arya path, those that have attained a state of liberation, those that we call Arhats, they have realized selflessness. They've realized the subtle selfness of persons, which means that they have seen reality in a very detailed way, detailed and subtle way. They have understood dependent origination. And with this profound understanding of dependent origination, a natural sense of love and concern arises for other living beings. So here Tsultrim realizes those practitioners also have this natural sense of concern for other living beings, but it is still not to the degree that Mahayanis practice, in which we Mahayanis take up the responsibility for the welfare of other living beings. So then the type of thought that Mahayanis have is that whatever should I meet, whatever might befall upon me, I will still take upon myself the responsibility for the welfare of others. So in general, Geshe reckons that with Hinayanis, they have that sense of a natural sense of loving concern for others, but without that thought of whatever might I encounter, I will never relinquish the welfare of other sentient beings. So in that sense, when we think of Hinayana and Mahayana in that this great way of thinking and lesser way of thinking, then this lesser way of thinking, which you do not take upon yourself the responsibility for the welfare of other sentient beings, is what we call a Hinayana attitude, whereas you still have this loving concern for others. Whereas with the Mahayana attitude, you take upon yourself the responsibility for the welfare of other sentient beings.
제 대본 멤비기 다 쇼스거라 두솔이야지 아니 쳔메실로 소바디 아 짜침부신 송고요레스 딘자 쳔메세디 비기 닌지랑라야 베네 닌지 쳔메세디 닌지라야 아니 닌지 임바이나야 쥐마마임비 닌지 임바이나야 닌지 쳔부임 고마르스 닌지 쳔보슬라온디 비기 따지 셴기 텐도 쿨트 케르퉁엥 라 어디지라야 코자 디 아니 요마레스 팀 멤버자 다 텔리 멤버인자 멤버로지 모두 담보니 고츠온디네 베나 겸주 dombalendine 아니 직 셴네 시다 제바 빵비기 dom바 손치네 아니 직 차당라 소바 차당기 왕기 아니 차와사마 아니 세와임바 민직바 임바질이야 아니 시니 아니 디파야기 탑코랑야 쩨는 슈거라스 딘자 아니 지 셴라야 미비 세월을 써봐 두조 빵고야기 균전 통신 로 딘지금에바 균전 통신 셴라 세워지는 지금에바 균전 통신 문제가 가스나 대바도 동아모도 지규임바도 통고라스 딘자 콘스 대바되는 찌마로 냠비 로디 딘지게 베 다음에 뭔가선 또 통이 깨우줄이야 딘지 남주지다 야지야다 연구로 인자 아니 년지 매바는 참아 매바 딘지 싸우니 인사 말했어 심제 탐지 된 싸움고 매바 딘지 인사 말했어 이나야 나라랑 그 최고 냠비 로드 매반자 대바 멤버스 딘지 간사 들려 대바 멤버스
After all, those who practice the Hinayana, which can be rendered into English as the lesser vehicle, they still practice the four immeasurables. Actually, the four immeasurables for them becomes such an important practice, such a precious practice. And within the four immeasurables, one of them is immeasurable compassion. So they practice immeasurable compassion to the point in which the compassion becomes uncontrived. But even if compassion is developed to an uncontrived state, it does not mean to say that one takes upon itself the responsibility to free all sentient beings from suffering, which is the meaning of great compassion. So then when we think of the stages of the practice of such practitioners, right from going for refuge, they go for refuge in the three jewels, then they take upon themselves a vow in which they abstain from harming others on the basis of that harm. They see anger and attachment as being harmful states of mind, and they think that in no way it is right for me to act under the influence of anger, attachment, and such. And the practice becomes so focused in emerging from that state. And therefore they give up harming others on the basis of that harm. And to do that in thinking that it is not right to harm others because all of us are the same in seeking happiness and well-being and wanting to avoid suffering and pain. And they also take on the development of the wisdom that realizes selflessness, the same as Mahayanis do. And therefore, in general, when we speak of a Hinayana attitude, sometimes it is stated in a very brief way that they're concerned about their own welfare, but still Geshe reckons that does not mean to say that they do not have a sense of concern for others, because as we just said, they need to have that sense of concern to others in when they meditate on the four immeasurables, when they abstain from harm on the basis of that harm. So they do that, but without then taking upon themselves the responsibility for the welfare or happiness of other living beings. And therefore, here they're called Hinayanists.
데레다 베나니지의 잠바 메나다 안 나바산지비 강사 차야 카브렌도 아스라 니지의 잠바싱이 냠네디 메나 데니 카브레샤스라
지단지나 카고르베야만 택진나 카고르.
택진 팀에 간다진 바이네야.
So without loving kindness and compassion, it'd be difficult to become any of those practitioners, Mahayanis or Hinayanis. It'd be difficult to do it without any sense of loving kindness and compassion.
네, 저기 시코란다 만제와서로 차도 러시안네 시든 집어 pom비게 아니 동발이야 좀바테다 아니 참바데 인지 메바니디 가와 차도 왔어. 가와 차도 오늘 same thing이 비게 동발이야 아니 정인지 바나 참바데 인지 신라미비 참바데 인지디 쇼케신 버려도 왔어.
After all, when you think of the basis of the practice, abstaining from harm and the basis of that harm, and making effort in abstaining from harm, making effort in keeping one's vows without loving kindness and concern, we will end up breaking or violating the vows that we have. And therefore, sustaining a sense of loving concern and compassion and focusing upon other living beings is important for abstaining from harm and the basis of that harm.
Teresa, that table may be Kanzanamla, Lu Kan, Chindu Chongi, Yijingi, Luki, number per Kudzi Tenila, Sanji Chomden, the Kombong on the Chebanibi, Chinangi, Jugen, Soban Samari, Niekote, Niete, Kombe, Sonin Tarchindi, Semji Chugu Devada Dember Samos, Table Chimbu, Soldier Town, Sajula Nevi, Chanju Samba, Chambu Namlaya, Lung Harshan to make the Province Sonin Tarchindi, Semji Chugu Devada Dember Samo. Zavada Juberchibin, Pandan Lamatan, Banamta, Chojin Chidinki come, Tai, Mamevana Shubi, Sanji Chomden de Namla. Lung Harshan do some the Puri, Teda Riri Tondo, Lu Tomatur, Lu Rirela, Yala than Yala Tomatruti, good and Jibi Yondeli someday, Charles Savatan, Yijin Lulu Chibi, so Ramjum some you make the Puri, Tenam Jutugula Saba maybe Devachamo Ton someday, John Julie. Some gen Namji Lemon to Sanji Tamji Church, Sanji Deva, some without the danger. Chanju Samba Namjin, Jordan to La Contosh, Gombo in the Congo, some gen Namla, Dangerous, Tejan Ranson, Genam, Yandu Namja, Dager, Chi Sons, Chulatam, Suches and those.
So let's read through that section that explains how to dispense a body to those who are engaged in the spiritual path. Make offerings to the practitioners of the low vehicle or the Hinayana by transforming your body into wish-fulfilling forms which meet their needs. Imagine that each one provides the practitioner with perfection of the two collections to complete causes and conditions inner and outer, to actualize this state of Buddha, the transcendent subduer, what we call in Sanskrit, the Bhagavan, in this very life, and that thereby they experience the bliss of the perfect body of truth, which is the Dhammakaya, right? So they experience the Dhammakaya in the mind streams. In like manner, offer your body to followers of the great vehicle, to followers of the Mahayana, from those on the path of accumulation and application up to the great bodhisattvas on the 10th spiritual level. Think that they too obtain the bliss of the perfect body of truth or the bliss of the Dhammakaya in the mind stream through the perfection of the two collections. Next, offer your body to your direct spiritual master, those belonging to the lineage and to the fully awakened beings residing in the infinite extensive worlds of the 10 directions. Imagine creating many bodies before each of them, and that these bodies have numerous arms and hands, enabling us to offer immeasurable prostrations, stimulated by an understanding of the advantages to be gained thereby, due to the process of actions and results. Furthermore, imagine immense heaps of inconceivable offerings emanated from this wish-granting body, and that thereby a great uncontaminated peace is born in their mind streams. Shantideva said in his guide to the Bodhisattva way of life, many sentient beings repeatedly make offerings to all the Buddhas, and may they constantly possess the inconceivable bliss of the Buddhas. May Bodhisattvas fulfill the welfare of sentient beings as they wish to, and may living beings receive all that the Buddhas have intended for them. Similarly, may the solitary Buddhas and hearers enjoy peace. This concludes the procedure for giving to the beings dwelling in the world.
Terdadik dodorodi tamagi chunjugu lonti tichagdosra gangda tanganzu yanja yanja shimu chunju nalola ya sonde ti tanganzu di somba nanshingi kazusu laglen tartudura simjen namgi lemang du sanje tamji chöji jinset ani di simjen namgi lemang du seg simjen namg nalola ya mar sama tsuguyoros tenzu susu ngone jikta sangi ngos je matu bayina sangi kusun tukten tsembi ani tachik sangi ku kunso song sonso susula ya landur ne shinji malawa dengi ani lama giwishin tindiya bana an dusula ya chik katsu skichik ani chobopol tukndo ani shabdo shu tukndo odi samla shachin kizi tugu mebayana ani bezunche na rwa nang tu yobayna gawa gom an kompal tambayna ani jaschimu shiwali sonya di tagda chagros simjen nam yileman sanjen nam chujiji an ti jebula ya ani samgi megibi dewa da tagdu dembachi yungres.
So we read through the section of how to dispense a body to those engaged in the path. And the summary of that, you can say the practice is summarized by Shantideva in his guide to the Bodhisattva way of life. May sentient beings repeatedly make offerings to all the Buddhas, and may they constantly possess the inconceivable bliss of the Buddha. So we too taking it on into our practice when it says may sentient beings repeatedly make offerings to all the Buddhas. Well, we are also included within the group of these sentient beings. So even if we currently cannot see a Buddha directly in person, we can still then in our practice take on this mental attitude that sees our lamas, our virtuous friends, as being representatives of the Buddha and embodying the qualities of body, speech, and mind. Right, so the qualities of body, speech, and minds of our lamas, our virtuous friends, are in lieu of those qualities of the Buddha. And with that in mind, we make offerings, we attend to them. And if we cannot meet the Buddha in person, at least we make effort in this practice, and we do it to our best ability. We also rejoice in whatever we can do at the moment, and we also work in order to increase that, to do it more and more. Just as Shantideva said here in his Bodhisattva way of life, and through that, the result will be happiness and well-being.
This same thing in Malunga, the Pekichambu, Chanju Samba Namji, Rodon to La Condushoz, Chanju Sambi Gombalaya, Drowi turn to Yajimato, Kanya Maros, the Chanju Samba Sammase, Gombo Yenese, Gombo di, and the Sanjum Dendi, Tamkila, Tojim Dembi, Sanjum Dendi, Kargongores Landi, and Chick Pig Muyu Netsul, Ra Muyu Netsul, Tawa Tenjong Tobi, Luya Tambi, and it's a Ninji Chamber, the Chambi Tambi, Chanjusem, Gulakin, Sumjan Tamjeta, Sanji Kombalaya, Goya di, and Gayu Gomba Diras, the di Tinanshinch, Dribble shows, Ra Tamji, and Netu Maring, Jungumar, Masama Chichin, Tamji, and Ganzumit Samalok, Ombonga Yongi. Any make tandang, samba tandang, leva tandang, young and summer log, to Sutrola Madamba, 가주 투두지게 아니 직출라야 롭종 체체니 아니 샘규디 약부시용야디 산점된다 공부디어라스 딘디 용쇼스 물론 잡아나 로 tani da diakshudros.
And also, Shantideva says here, may bodhisattvas fulfill the welfare of sentient beings as they wish to, and may all living beings receive all that the Buddhas have intended for them. Now, when it says, may bodhisattva fulfill the welfare of sentient beings, and may the Buddha protectors be able to accomplish whatever they intend to, then it's important then to still keep in mind that that we make those heartfelt aspirations. We make heartfelt aspirations to Buddhas and to the bodhisattvas. So when we think of making those aspirations for all the intentions, all the thoughts of the Buddhas and bodhisattvas to come to pass, we think about it as those intentions which are based on reality. So, for example, those Buddhas, the one that are skilled in means, the one that are like the Buddha, the Bhagavan, the historical Buddha, the Buddha, the Bhagavan, having developed an understanding of dependent origination, on that basis developing loving kindness and compassion to others, on that basis developing bodhicitta, the mind of enlightenment, so that whatever the Buddha did, motivated by bodhicitta, the mind of enlightenment, was intended at leading all sentient beings to the state of Buddhahood, setting all of them in a state of Buddha. And this is what we call the Buddha, the victor, the victorious one. So we think, may all the intentions of the Buddha come to pass. So we currently, we might say that we don't have the capacity to do it, but we can still aspire to that. We can aspire to the fulfillment. We can aspire to the fulfillment of all that the Buddha intends to. May all of that come to pass without disturbance.
Tenda nibanel tang surus ta rangri gi lu yijin gi lu gi namba chok jun ji den gi kam ta ye meme bi ne gi shin nam la tang wi ne gi ji den ma ta ba dong bu serma kyong bu sema ngan ro yang sa la so ba ma ta bi ne tham ji ne gyur de ne gi ji den gi kam tham ji kya rom bu chen na zo ji rang shin lang ter de nyam ba ta ru che wa yang ba re nan jam shi de wa chama me chen we sa zen den ru ji nim bi ge chong de den ba ta ye me don ha zo ji chel de cham ba tar rom bu chi pa gu che ba ser mo me ti gi che me cham bur da ba o ba la da kum ta da pe ma ki shi de bin kim ba chu jan ha zo ge nyen ba ro ba ga shin cho la dang wi gen bi yang la ge den den bi cho da ze da den ga ta kin ze ba che ba so ta bi shin pu sum cho ban gyur de san ji chang sam pa bi cho nam la che bi tin ki pong bu chen bu da ru sam shin shin te da na ye bi chu gi sim jen la te da wi pon zo jo wa le ngar ge ta ja pa ta che ban chu wi gen ge chi kya ma song shin chang chu ji bin tun gen sha dan jo wa sam de chun ju le tham je tun sa je da se ma la so me rang xin jang ba ni yu ji lu jin ku yi cha de xin da yo nam ka le ji yun chen bo che song ba ta ros.
Now, next is giving a body to the environment which beings inhabit. To offer our bodies to the environment beings living, we send them forth to infinite worlds within the 10 directions in the aspect of wish-fulfilling jewels. Transform all the impure environments filled with decayed logs, thorns, bushes, sand, crevices, cliffs, and so forth into wonderful pure lands in the nature of various precious stones, as level as the palm of your hand, open, extensive, and smooth to touch, stainless and bright, perfumed with sandalwood, scattered with celestial flowers, and fenced with jewels. They are filled with powdered gold, silver, and pearls, and covered with utpala, lilies, and lotus flowers. There are beautiful lakes, pools, and ponds containing water possessing the 8 pleasing qualities, over which fly different kinds of water birds singing sweetly, enhancing the scene. Think that these constitute magnificent clouds of offerings to assemblies of Buddhas and exalted Bodhisattvas, so that they do not for a moment provide the slightest cause, they do not for a moment provide the slightest cause, pride, arrogance, or conceit in the beings who inhabit and enjoy the pleasures of these abodes. Think that on the contrary, they realize enlightenment due to such favorable conditions. The Guide to the Bodhisattva Way of Life says, may everywhere the earth be pure, free from stones and pebbles, level as the palm of my hand and smooth in the nature of aquamarine. May all embodied beings uninterruptedly hear the sound of the doctrine issuing from birds, trees, beams of light, and even from space.
Duzupe Kichamburesha, Shin Tedana Yebi, Chugi Simjala, Teda, Punzo Jovale, Narget and Jabba Trebanjoa. Can the Kitchik Saya Mason said. Tepe Kichambura, Anzula Kaukala, Dajik, and a chick penjo lonchola soba, and a negative des young cigarettes. The Dileva in a lamb sang pig, Narget and Jabba Trebala soba. Kanji Shen Tonjon Chegi, Chagan Somba, the Depe must have a tabu. Chagores, the Dimandrova Katsusiki Big and a Gunjo of a tea, Tsuki, and a chick Shenlea, Pendochiagi, Chaganlea, Lusum Nigi Tony, Shenlea, Pendochiagi, Chagana, Juntuana, the D and the Labchenris, Ra, Tigo Wesaros, Ra.
It says here, think that these constitute magnificent clouds of offerings to assemblies of Buddhas and exalted Bodhisattvas, and that they do not for a moment provide the slightest cause for pride, arrogance, or conceit in the beings who inhabit and enjoy the pleasures of these abodes. So that instruction is also valid to us, in the sense that it is not unlikely that once we have quite a lot of possessions and money and so forth, we become proud or arrogant. We look down on others, we behave in a conceited way. So may that not come to pass. If we do have wealth, money, and so forth, we want to use it as conditions favorable for the benefit of others. May we be able to offer service to others, to help others with our body and possessions. So if you think about it like that, then it becomes very powerful.
There's a niba longju on your sag. The longju tangor said, the longju di longju tong cinemas and the longju di longje guach. Nesure dosra. Tangazu longje di longje gores laundi, and longju said the college jagri be chick science on the kaya some. Tindijila Lonchung Winsengorda or delicate Loncho says your Marslana. Yes, on the delicate church. Ronganzu Lunga Yixum di Lunga Yixum the Ganzu Lonchureshas. Tinani touch Yidan Luni body, the Lonju Kitchish Bernara Lu di Lonjuchini, Lu di Lonche Goda, Tangazu mi Luj Layovanza, mi Ludi. Launches in a major Pejuchi Matuana, and a me lulambi good and true maros. Me lever you be good and true maros. The me lever your body, Pejuchialia, me lever Pejuchiadi, Candas Chigore, Lojon Chigorda, Ra, Namju Tungora. O Dinti Chetabana, and a rangi launcher di longerang. Mother Diche Matuana, and a meva the chigba, good and major. Teacher on the Lonjo Tong said, Be Kitchenbu in Sares.
The next section in the text explains how to give away possessions. Right, so this meditation on giving and taking is explaining how to give away our body, possessions, and roots of virtue to others. So now we come to the section that explains how we give away possessions. Now, the word for that in Tibetan does not refer only to possession. Sometimes it is translated as enjoyments or resources. So when we think of our resources, our utilities, our enjoyments, they're not limited just to foods and drinks and clothing. Are they limited only to that? Or is there something that is more important than just food and drink and clothing and so forth? Well, we can regard our body, speech, and mind as being resources. They're things that we use, objects of use. And of our body, speech, and mind, the most important are our body and mind. So our body, you can say, is something that we enjoy. It is an object of enjoyment in a sense that it is something that we use, we put to use. So we want to put it to use in a way that fulfills a certain purpose. If there's no purpose to what we do, if we do not utilize the body in a purposeful way, it's the same. You can say that in a great scheme of things, it's the same as like not having a body at all. So we put to use our body, and we also put to use our mind. So when we utilize our mind, we study. On the basis of studying, we become smarter in a sense that we give rise to intelligence, to wisdom that is better or smarter. So it's important to regard our possessions, our enjoyments, our utilities, not just as just things which are foods and drinks and so forth, but also to consider our body, speech, and mind also as things to be used and to make a proper use of them.
테레자다 론주 동유 춘니 강라 동위 율남기 름바는 하신 찰라스 등 공두슈 랑기 론주 세군네 강 코요 소다 조디 랑기 류가 이익숨 디토니 세군네 강라 소바 라 다지 코르데 요토소 페이지지에게 도단 가수 수염이 뜻하신 따기로 와서 찌든 찐데버 탐지 이신기 롱주드 쫄때 신 대달라 남라 개버 체딩 하신 땅에 대달이建立장 직된의 디비 롱주 섬기 미케번 중심 대남의 조비 장주들이 속샤단 총리 상기대 샘기 추구 대화의 덴버 사모 라마다 상기 좀 된데 나라 이신기 롱주 넘버 4 투기를 사범이 대화 캐버진 총was sambanın marşenos.
Let's read through the section that explains how to give away possessions or resources. Those to whom we should give are in the same order as before, which means when we cover the section of giving away our body. We should send forth our possessions, such as food, clothing, dwelling, companions, servants, and so forth. We can give away practice in giving away our possessions, food, clothing, dwelling. Whether or not companion and servants is really relevant to us, this is something that probably we can investigate. That's likely not. But anyway, we can still do it with our possessions, food, clothing, dwelling, and so forth in forms that fulfill all wishes. Imagine that extensively satisfying the needs of beings in all the worlds generates mundane and transcendental wealth, which creates the causes for accomplishing the fully awakened state and having attained, after attaining enlightenment, their minds obtain the bliss of the perfect body of truth, the bliss of the Dhammakaya. As before, subsequently offer wish-filling wealth to the spiritual masters and Buddhas, imagining that a special uncontaminated bliss is born in their mind streams.
Da somebody gets a tonis, da gets a tongu gets a la carrioris laundi, lunga yisungi gets a, and demota da tusungi gets a, tirata domro javna da dioros ra.
Now, the next section explains the giving away of roots of virtue. So it says, with regards to our bodies and possessions, we can give away that we have, what we have and what will be acquired in the future, but not that which which has already ceased to exist. But with giving away our roots of virtue, we can give roots of virtues of the past, of the present, and of the future.
Reda geza nani geza labchi shu di chanjuk sem gitse somebody ani geza di labchi shu chago sares ra chanjuk sem gitse seondi ta jik tobja thatu ba sangi kongmalaya migyoras ani chetu chaba simjan tham chelaya mingni ani chambada ninji komni ani di tobki ani simjan tham jik dödön tungingi sangi kongba jik döndin yegoras dinza dinji gita geza di geza labche shu dires ro deli geza labche jik yomares da yomares.
So when we give away a roots of virtue in the past, present, and future, the most powerful root of virtue that we can give is the one that is combined with bodhicitta, the one that is combined with the mind of enlightenment, which aspires to the final object of attainment, the state of enlightenment. So the mode of operation, or for the purpose of developing bodhicitta, we develop loving kindness and compassion for sentient beings, which become the object of operation of the mind of enlightenment and love and compassion. So for thinking that in order to be able to provide sentient beings with happiness and bliss, we then need to attain the state of enlightenment. So that type of virtue, which is combined with bodhicitta, becomes the most powerful virtue.
Terda kansanada dili dambena samjen tamjegi chedu samjen tamjela mibi ninji gombayna ani samjen tameba tameba na shingi ani ninji tameba tameba chi ta gegyoras denza di teda nyambi gewa tameba tameba chi ani choksaya da tameba tameba chi choksagor denza da bigi ani tameba tamebi ani zogi mebi ani sanji kompandiya gyutindijil tin togoras denza gewalab cheshu di chanju sem gitsesim bateres denza di tolaya malamja susula mebayna yong shos yobayna yagi do shos ro ani ranchi bu mase ani kanji gi simja tamji gilaya ani chanju sem rumbuchi kewa shose malamji gebana shuji tsozoro wasares ro.
So there is no other virtue that is greater than that. It is any roots of virtue that is combined with bodhicitta becomes the most powerful virtue. And the reason for that is that it is focused on all sentient beings, for the sake of all sentient beings. So we develop compassion in focusing on all sentient beings. And since sentient beings are infinite, they're countless, they're limitless, also our compassion, which focuses on them, becomes limitless. It becomes infinite. And with infinite compassion, focusing on countless infinite sentient beings, we accumulate infinite, limitless accumulations. And they contribute to the attainment of the state of Buddhahood, which is infinite, inexhaustible. And therefore, whatever we do combined, qualified by bodhicitta, becomes the most powerful virtue. So we think, may that come to pass. Not only may we be able to attain the state of enlightenment for the sake of others, also we think that may also all other living beings develop bodhicitta in the mind stream.
Tandi nandeli sonsha sumba geza tongane lu lonju har shikpa nam tandu yo maris. Tata wada maung bana yon gyua nam tonga yinbe, tonga yinlas. Tonga yinlas. Ta ngus tonga yo maras. Ta disungar ta ngus jimba di bena lu da lonju har shik samba di. Ta ngus tanga yoras na dida yo maras. Ina sem nalola ya tizo pigi ani mebache di tanga yoba mebache baina che chogores tin digores ra.
So reading through this section, it says, with regards to our bodies and possessions, we can give away that what we have and what we will acquire in the future, but not that which has already ceased to exist. However, the virtues of the past, present, and future are all suitable to be given away. The seeds or potencies of past virtues, as well as those of the present, and all future virtues up to the attainment of Buddhahood can all be given away, which means that with respect to our body and possessions, while we practice giving them away to others, we cannot give away things that do no longer exist. Whereas with roots of virtues, we can give all of our roots of virtues, those of the past, those of the present, and those of the future. The Gato Bodhisattva way of life says all virtues produced in the three times should be given away without restraint to accomplish the goals of sentient beings. Chunju de loimbe.
마음보는 좋은 동안 일라세 티버틀로.
Okay.
게어투숨 세드 로기.
That's all.
테레스다 디 카나다 순구에나 그래서 ngos 동알이야 자바이나니스 게어투숨 기드바 탐제 땅드롱 슬론디 아니 랑기 게자디 샹라야 ngos 테샤야스다케 요마르와스 소 묘바치고다 묘바치단데 순고라스 이네디나 게와투숨 기드바 탐제 땅드롱디 디비 게비 사베남 파샤 땅디요라 다다와 마음바니 산지 마두지 파드 게와탐제 땅드롱디 전줄레 투숨 게바남 심진군기 텐조시 펜바메와 땅원자 시송소스.
Now, the section says, however, the virtues of the past, present, and future are all suitable to be given away. The seeds or potencies of past virtues, as well as those of the present and all future virtues up to the attainment of Buddhahood, cannot be given away. Now, when it says they can all be given away, it's not that you can actually directly give them away to others. But here, when it says that all of them can be given away, it means to say that all of them you can imagine, you can visualize that you give them all away. So we had the verse from Shantidevas Gato Bodhisattva way of life, all virtues produced in the three times should be given away without restraint to accomplish the goals of all sentient beings. The Master Nagarjuna also says, by this virtue, may all beings gather the collections of merit and wisdom, and as a result of that merit and wisdom, may they achieve these two sublime bodies.
Diris sunguyores rongomulu malandi gewandi gewoko sono ishi chosa slandi ra gewatam che di ani karila dugores landi sonum da ishi chola ya dugores sonum da ishi choni tarchimbala teni ani tambakuni chukuda sujikuni bodi and Tobion Gores, the Ditogo Gores, the Disongo Dasra, Tambanin Tober Society, Tambadi, Kunitilia, Suguda, Chugunilia Jagores.
The most concise summary of that is given by Nagarjuna. So the concise aspiration by Nagarjuna says, by this virtue, may all beings gather the collections of merit and wisdom, and as a result of that merit and wisdom, may they achieve the two sublime bodies. So first of all virtues, as Nagarjuna referred to them here, all the virtues are included within the two accumulations. So there is the accumulation of merit and the accumulation of exalted knowledge. And when those two accumulations are perfected, we thereby attain the two bodies of Buddha, the Dhammakaya, the Dhamma body of Buddha, and the form body of the Buddha, the Rupakaya. So we need then the two accumulations to be completed, then to attain the two bodies of Buddha.
데르다 디난게 개원 디세 개원 디 탑식이 춘이래야 자리아레스다 조디 로 탑비게다 즉 잔주 샘디다 아니 셰르 똥번이 또비 셰르 임보티 로 텐종 또비 셰르스나 똥번이 또비 셰르스나 디니보디다 손든 데발레 테니 드마투야게 아니 톱샤직 미시바레스 디니라 테니 아니 담비꾼이야 디니를 때는 누구건자 또 디니 드버쇼스 디니를 때는 로
And when Nagarjuna begins with referring to this virtue, it refers to the virtue of method and wisdom. Method being bodhicitta, the mind of enlightenment, and wisdom is wisdom that realizes emptiness, or wisdom that realizes dependent arising. So by combining, uniting these two, bodhicitta and the wisdom of emptiness, there is no object of attainment that will be impossible to attain. So enlightenment would not be impossible for us through the combination of method and wisdom, bodhicitta and wisdom that realizes emptiness. So through that, Nagarjuna says, may we achieve the two sublime bodies of Buddha.
데르다 산지비 추어데 다디라다 디인자 로 산지기 추어가 즉 토모마인비 개취 연하면디 아니 탐젤 미비게 잠바다 닌지 디토기다 즉 잔주그 샘생디 직차고레스 디기 셔자다 마소나 비기 아니 똥번이 또비 셔르티 로 똥번이 또비 셔르고 또비 아니 잠바다 닌지 탄두고레 딘디기 잠바다 닌지 또비 비다 젠든 코디케와다 즉 라섬 남다세 남도 잔주그 샘디 로 잔주그 샘디 심전 탐지기 저동이 산지 공부 두기 냠비기 로드블레고스 다 디니 손든 데소나 아니 마토 지에요 사마레스 다 디 산지기 추고다 연하면은 들어 오늘 산지기 추 냠네 지기지나 다 디니 냠네 치고다스라
Now, if you wonder about the unique feature of the Buddha Dharma, the unique feature is the development of loving kindness and compassion and bodhisattva, which focus on all sentient beings and on everyone. And the basis for the development of loving kindness and compassion and bodhicitta is the wisdom that realizes emptiness. So from wisdom that realizes emptiness, due to that, you develop loving kindness to others, compassion to others. You develop the wholehearted resolve in which you take upon yourself the responsibility for freeing sentient beings from suffering, and thereby you develop bodhicitta in thinking, may I attain the state of Buddhahood, the state of enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings. That is the practice of the Buddha Dharma.
데즈다 개원디 개오고 소노이시 조서 소노이시 담반인 토버쇼스 응안 되셔서라.
And therefore we will leave this session here with Nagarjuna's prayer. By this virtue, may all beings gather the collections of merit and wisdom, and as a result of that merit and wisdom, may they achieve the two sublime bodies of Buddha. Thank you. May the supreme jewel bodhicitta that has not arisen, arise and grow. And may that which has arisen not diminish, but increase more and more. Due to the merits of these virtuous actions, might quickly attain the state of a Guru Buddha and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. In this land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. O powerful Chenrezig Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. Savior of the snowland teachings and transmigrated beings, who makes extremely clear the path of this unification of emptiness and compassion. To the lotus holder Tenzin Gyatso, I beseech, may all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. You uphold the subduer's moral way, who says in the bountiful bearer of all, sustaining, preserving, and spreading Majjhina's victorious doctrine, who masterfully accomplished magnificent prayers honoring the three jewels. Savior of myself and others, your disciples, please live long.